Well, right. At this happy note, we're not disbanding the conference. Actually, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, and it's high time we kicked off our panel discussion. And I really hope that this panel discussion will provoke the most heated debate. This round table will be devoted to the main characteristics and traits and features of a show garden that have the most significant impact on the urban environment and the social climate. It will give us a chance to discuss all the possible features of a show garden, which makes it a success, both in terms of winning golden awards, but also in terms of playing the most important role of a garden, which is having an influence on the social lives of citizens. Andy Sturgeon is going to be the facilitator of this panel discussion. I have already introduced Andy to you, so I guess he is all set to act as a facilitator. Taisiya is going to stay on the stage, and she will, well, she's already in her seat. I'd like to invite to the stage Ludmila, Belikh, and a landscape designer and a multiple winner of various shows. She's been a member of expert council for many years, and Irina Savvateeva, head of the Savvateeva tree nursery, she's been part of the jury board of the flower jam for several years. Elena Makevnina, the chairperson of the board of the Raw Mall. I'd like to invite to the stage Nataliya Borisova, a master landscape designer, Elvira Dovletyarova, CEO of the agricultural department of the Rudian University, and Andrey Batarin, a graduate of the Sheffield University, the UK. You all have mics, presumably. These are handheld mics, but I hope there are enough of them for all of you. And I really hope that you have a fruitful discussion, despite the fact that there are quite a few panelists on the stage, and I guess they all have different opinions. Since this is a panel discussion, after the experts have a chance to state their views that the facilitator will state, you will also have some time for the Q&A.
Right, okay, so let's get going. So we're talking about the flower jam, well, general, I suppose, gardens, but specifically with the flower jam. And I know that everyone here has a topic which they'd like to talk about, and I wonder who would like to kick off, who would like to start? None of you have got a microphone. As a volunteer, please.
My name is Elvira Dovletyarova. Actually, I work for the Landscape Design and Sustainable Ecosystems Department of the Russian University of People's Friendship. The first thing I want to touch upon is one of the flower jam's show gardens, and actually I really like this phenomenon. It's not just a one-off event. Our department runs lots of international projects focusing on ecosystems and ecosystem services. So a show garden and permanent gardens that are scattered in Moscow thanks to the efforts of the Flower Jam Fest improve the quality of the ecosystem services and increase the number of positive advantages that can be monetized. they have a huge positive impact on the ecosystem in general. We have witnessed a number of great gardens that were constructed last year, including Andes parks. But the woods and the trees that are used in these parks and gardens not only increase the level of oxygenation, not only do they provide enough shade, they can also reduce the prevalence of cardiovascular diseases. So this is a systemic and ecosystem service. People fall sick less frequently, they work more, and that gives a good positive effect for the municipal authorities. This is something that can be measured in monetary terms. In addition to that, gardens facilitate the development of the travel industry and tourism in general. As far as the international conference held last year is concerned, I'd like to highlight the business agenda and the national award handed out to national architects. Young King from London actually stated that London does precise calculations on the profits derived by from ecosystem services provided by a tree. So profitability per tree is something that they take into account. And like I said, it has a positive impact both on the well-being and the social aspects as well as the cultural aspects of city inhabitants. Thus, I'd like to pave the way for the follow-up discussion, and I really believe that we should take this positive experience gained by our British counterparts in everything we will try to do with the show gardens and the trees planted as part of show gardens. As for the trees in general, we are in a wonderful apothecary garden, which is part of the botanical garden. Not only is it a sightseeing spot, it's a sanctuary in the middle of a major city. So if you leave this greenhouse, you'll see lots of trees fitted with the so-called tree talkers, and it's part of the Russian-Italian study aimed at tracking the status of a standalone tree. So actually you can use your smartphone or any device, if you have the right app, to track the movement of fluids inside the tree and so on and so forth. I just wanted to mention that Flower Jam has evolved from just a show into a culturally and socially significant event. It is now a scientific phenomenon, I would say. And it's really important to realize the role of trees in the show gardens. Therefore, we need to track and trace and manage their status. That's exactly what our department is responsible for. That brings me to the end of my comments.
I think it might make sense, perhaps, Andrey, if you follow on from that, because I know that you're interested in humans in interaction with the street environment, and I think that would be a good follow-on from understanding the trees.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to talk about people, those who use the spaces daily. Well, we install the gardens in the center of the city. And in the city, the problem usually is the long linear spaces with a lot of transportation transit. And the facades of the buildings are there, and we don't have anything in between. There's in-between space which would kind of prompt people to stop, to give them some time to rest, or to give them space for a talk. And if you go to the street, And, well, this is my research now. I go to the street and I look at people. So if you look at people, you can see that they are looking for a shelter in architecture, inside facades and inside this geometry. And this is a really narrow page in our book, and this means that people cannot really find any space where they would conveniently relax and spend their time. And these gardens, the jam event is arranging throughout Moscow, many locations, central spots. They really let people find a place to have these needs satisfied, and this changes their behavior. It would be really nice to have a look at the dynamics of these spaces, to see the transit spaces which didn't support any communication in the past, which didn't satisfy these needs. So it would be nice to see how these places change after gardens are installed there, how people start actively using these spaces. The gardens shouldn't be filled with interactive functions of something. They just should be there, and they should really denote a place as a place for people. So this is not just a transit area. This is a place where people can feel comfortable and spend time. And when people start using this, they will adjust the space to their needs, and they can use the things designed by the architects to satisfy their needs. And they can bring their table games, and they can stay there, enjoy their surroundings. And this change of the space, which used to be bare, and which has become a place to reach fulfillment, so this is a very good dynamics.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you measure some of the things that you've been talking about?
And this asks for quite a lot of labor, so almost daily or with some intervals. You take several work days and weekends and vacations, and you should go there to the location, or you can install cameras, or do both. You go yourself and you install cameras and use maps and tablets, and you mention and you make signs of locations where people stay, talk, how they move, how they interact with each other and with the environment. So say people just go by or take a pause to look at flowers, feel them, touch them, smell them, or say this could be a group of people who stay for some time inside the environment. They use niches, they use some locations which were designed on purpose or some other way, so they can use these spaces to communicate and just to be there in the open. One more interesting thing: if we keep track of people, we can identify patterns, and you can judge by the behavior of people whether they have come there from some other space or from the nearby buildings. Maybe they have a lunch break or a smoke break. So users like that, they don't like looking for some long-distance shelter. They will go 50 to 70 meters for a comfortable place to stay. And that's why these gardens in the center of the city should be a massive phenomenon. This will give people more chances, and they will not have to walk or take a drive somewhere to have a park or just a permanent location, permanent garden. So those who pass by, they enjoy this effect. They can enjoy more greenery in this city, and this is good for their psychological condition.
There's just one more thing. There's been a lot of talk about the gardens in Flower Jam being like a living laboratory, and it can provide us with some useful insights and information. But how do you imagine that this information can be used in the future to make what we do better?
I believe we might try to ask people after they have come to the gardens if they show their consent, so we can figure out what hasn't attracted them. And when we have the data the observers collect, we can look at their trajectory, their activities inside the space, and then we can compare it to what they have said to understand what impacted them in terms of flowers, the architecture, or maybe the environment which is generated by communication and the availability of other people in this, so to see what attracts them. So maybe the drive of this garden, maybe something else. And this way, you'll be able to identify the factors which are key to attract people to these environments. We can see some things we are now missing in our city environment, things the gardens provide, and this can be further added to the next projects or even permanent gardens. So this can be used, the successful things can be used there.
Okay, thank you. Taisiya, now that we're beginning to touch on the show gardens, should I... Is that working? Is that okay? So now that we're talking about the show gardens, as you've been involved with Flower Jam since the first year, and we judged together last year, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the benefits and what you'd like to say.
Алло, я действительно с первого джема,
I'm with you since the first jam, and it was quite difficult to work there because it was just taking the first steps as a recently born child, and the jury members were also careful in the things they did, so that not to do any harm. You know, this is the doctor's motto. We didn't want to scare anyone away, and we wanted people to start their bold career steps. I believe that this fest cannot be called an exhibition anymore, and there are several reasons to this. Number one, every exhibition is short-lived, either 2 weeks, or 10 days, or 5 or 4 days, and so on. And this fest works for the benefit of the city throughout the summer months and even September. And the plants, so if you really take care of them, and that's what is done, the flowers and the plants, they show all the beauty they accumulate throughout the summer, the beauty initially designed in the project. And I believe that this fest shouldn't be called an exhibition anymore. This fest is improving the comfort of the city environment. Well, I'm a landscape architect. I have worked all my life in the city. I know the specific features of the city, and these things are really difficult. So this is well, a standalone education. Well, this fest is building in the city environment locations for short-term or longer-term recreation and relaxation. The jury's effort within the last 3 years have let us comprehend all this, and this has become a positive assessment for different jobs. And I believe the gardens where people can have rest, just take a seat and to find a cozy environment. So these are good gardens. Here I agree with Andrey. So these are the gardens which perform their most important functions. Well, in winter, we have larger facilities, or like the big parks with skating rinks. We have the Moscow boulevards, and these gardens, they shouldn't be exhibitions anymore. They should be professionally functional. And I believe that these professional, functional words would be exactly the essence of my understanding of this.
Perhaps now we're on the subject of the Flower Jam Gardens, just to understand a little bit about the process, specifically the mentoring. So Nataliya, would you like to speak next? Have you got a thing?
Thank you. I have talked about mentoring earlier today. Well, by chance, when I was invited to the stage, and thank you for this. I'd like to thank the organizers as well. Here we have many members of the fests of 2020, and I believe it is crucial to them to know that they can talk to mentors and discuss issues. And this Institute of Mentoring, which was born at this festival last year, the expert board council were invited to become mentors of gardens in different nominations. For instance, I had 3 gardens, and I'm proud of the results of those I mentored. I believe this is interesting, and we can see the garden changing and transforming. We can help our colleagues avoid blunders. We can give them an expert judgment of the garden. We can identify and help them to make the garden more bright and interesting and unusual. And we don't impose our opinion on them. Well, at least I never do it. I believe this is the garden of the participant. And the only thing I can do is give some advice or listen to people, because sometimes it's all that it takes, because the participants want to share. They want to give you, say, 2 options. And when they discuss this, they can determine it on their own. I mean, which option is the better. One more thing to mention is that I'm really proud of the gardens I am related to. And me, as many mentors, would like to see the gardens which are awarded with a prize, be it the gold medal or Grand Prix. So I want the winner gardens to be mentioned together with the mentors as well, since we also contributed to this. Emotions, effort, excitement. Well, it shouldn't be like the Voice, show when there is a contest of mentors. But still, I believe that this could be quite good for increasing the profile of mentoring and to make mentors more interested in taking part in this effort in designing gardens. And I wish all the participants a good ally with the mentor. This is crucial. So I want it to be a friendly union. A few words about the fest. The fest the city more attractive to tourists, and this is cool. Moscow is a very attractive place for tourists now, and to a large extent the fest has helped. On behalf of the organizing committee of the Flower Jam Fest, I'd like to tell you that we will jump on this idea. The role of mentors is highly appreciated. We do love you and value you highly. And for the work last year, thank you. So it's a pity that we haven't come up with this, but thank you for giving us advice.
I think what's interesting about the mentoring is that it also means that it's something of a collaborative process. And I think in the creative world, if you are collaborating in any way, it's always useful to have different people having some sort of input. And I also wonder whether, as a mentor, and I'd like to ask you this, Ludmila, do you feel that you learn something from the process of actually mentoring?
Thank you. Sure. I was lucky with my mentoree, well, the gardens and the participants we cooperated with. Well, it differs from participant to participant, garden to garden, and nomination to nomination. We're all different, and forging this relationship is a really interesting process. And say, with Patricia, we knew each other before, and I saw how the garden was born, so to say, and I saw the process behind this. And this is a long journey to this garden. And I agree with Nataliya. Me and Elena Markidantova went to the Arbat Street to see the sunrise. And I believe that my function here is to pass over the flower pots. And so this is the author who is responsible for this. So this is the author's garden, the participant's garden. And with some other speakers, we clarified the variety and determined the selection of plants. And Ludmila and the participant from Finland, we jointly kind of translated it into the language of climate. Well, this was one of the tasks because, well, I had to look up or Google a couple of plants to understand this Italian assortment. So how to find something which should be kind of found in our plant nurseries. So how to find this match and how to answer the requirement from the mentor.
Thank you very much. And Elena, I know that as in your role as president of the Moscow Association of Landscape Architects, you obviously have a particular interest in what's going on in Moscow and in the streets. And I think you're new to Flower Jam, so perhaps we could hear a little bit about your thoughts.
Thank you for giving me the floor. You know, any landscape exhibition is a place with a high concentration of visitors. And this is a place where you can show and share some trends and landscape architecture and show some landscaping developments, and there you can share the exhibits of art and science. And in the 21st century, you can see so many fests like that. And as Andrey mentioned, this is related to the needs of the urbanites. They want to have rest, they want to talk, to discuss things in the gardens, and maybe they can also copy some garden elements, and they can build their own gardens using these new approaches and tricks. And this is a social thing which is important to develop, and but it's not only the urbanites, but all the target audience should be also happy. I'm glad to mention that the leadership of the city have analyzed these needs and have promoted this tool, and now we can see that we have a preset deadline and specific steps to take. So I mean that this jam is available to all the categories of people, and this is a very good solution to the problems mentioned. And changing the function of the environment, these transit zones, they were converted into relaxation zones where people could come. So these gardens, they add zoning to space. It's important to mention that the Flower Jam Fest is the only fest which has converted from special use to public use, and this is a unique thing. So these gardens are small in space, and they are built considering all the vegetation period. Here we see that the authors are happy, and I'd like to highlight a number of things here. The authors are motivated because they see the results of their work, and they get out of the routine. They have a kind of project opportunities, and also they can do networking, and they are motivated by a monetary reward if they win. One more thing to mention is the role of the Flower Jam in making the garden activities, and making the landscape architect profession more popular through beauty in its broadest sense. And the results, well, sure, the organizers have managed to improve the quality of the city landscape, to improve the garden's match, meaning that the shape and the site of the garden helps people live better. So the locations are really well picked, and the external environment is considered. The scale and the size. Citing Jan Gale, this is the life from within buildings at the eye level. So now we see that the transit areas are being converted into the comfortable areas, and this is good in terms of safety, and these gardens are quieter, more clean, and more effective. Recreation and relaxation can be used to show biodiversity and to improve the city environment and the social climate. Thank you.
Is that working? Oh, it is, yes. Thank you very much. Irina, now, I've known you for a few years since we met, because you founded Gardens and People, of course. So I think that makes you one of the most experienced show garden people here, probably. And I think you wanted to talk something about a garden at the Garden and People Festival.
You know, the organizers asked me to say a few words about the Garden and People, and to begin with, I'd like to talk about the Jam Show Gardens. We talked with colleagues over this event, and when we consider the landscape designers and whether they are going to the new fest or not. And the thing is that many are afraid. Many are afraid, and that's why they don't participate. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of everything. For instance, the project might be done without any good location match. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of picking wrong flowers or having poor maintenance. Well, colleagues, all those who thrive are afraid. And all my life I have been afraid of things. But you still overcome it and you go further. Please don't be afraid. Please go ahead. There are people to support you. Even if there are issues and failures, well, they happen, they're not ideal. Well, even if these are your personal failures, no problem. Go there, fail, and fail forward. I believe that the Jam event is a really interesting fast. You can get a very strong impact forward. And a few words about the things the organizers asked me to talk about. The Garden Remise project. This project was presented at the Gardens and People Festival, and this is related to the topic of this event, the social gardens. Last year, in our plant nursery, we ran a 2-day workshop on this topic. We built it in the nursery, and then it was brought to the fest. So I believe all of you know what I'm talking about, and I was interested in the project. And so, you know, the response was like that. Well, this is so good. Finally, you remember what Remise is. So this is, and some other people said that this has no relation to gardens. And so I believe that this is a very interesting and quite telling thing. So about the humans and nature topic. A few words about the importance and the interest of developing the idea of remise or harness. So this has been known since the 18th century, and so this issue hasn't been developed for private gardens. I believe this is really important to do it now, because in the private gardens, because this helps. For instance, this helps our people to get distracted from the gadgets and computers and phones. They can come and get absorbed in a different world to see the bees and butterflies around you, and maybe the heart of the small people will be touched by this. And I believe that this small remises will happen, and sure, this is not going to solve any environmental problems. I believe this is more for awareness than for the environment. And I hope that those who are going to see these small gardens, they will treat the environment completely differently. They will treat waste sorting differently. They will understand that they need to replace the plastic bags with textile bags, for instance. My daughter is well, grown up now, and she has a lot of friends, 25 and older, and they live in Russia and abroad, and they are all crazy about the environment. My daughter comes to me every time, and she's scolding me on things like getting rid of plastic and the food we consume, and why I go to the store with a plastic bag, for instance. And I talk to my colleagues and I say that this is a case for many now. And I believe that going back to the environmental topic, so this is really important in terms of gardens and this flower gardens. So this is really important. Don't be afraid, and this is really important for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ludmila, did you want to add something?
Я добавить к Ирине, что, с одной стороны, судя по количеству представленных в этом году проектов, боятся уже существенно меньше. Так что и то ли еще будет. Спасибо. Я на самом деле хотела бы тоже еще такой вопрос, возможно, поднять. Какой посыл, мы говорим о том, какой посыл несет выставочный сад, да, когда это сад для всех? Когда это сад на общественном пространстве. Мы, конечно, говорим, что понятно, что это функция, что это точка притяжения, и функции эти могут быть разные. Это понятно, что это, не знаю, там место встреч, это место там отдых в тени, это там, не знаю, возможно, какие-то интерактивные там моменты, где это включено. в садах. Но мне кажется, что то есть сад должен быть комфортным, это понятно. Как бы, ну, должен быть ли он еще понятным, еще хороший вопрос. Но мне хотелось бы поднять такой момент, что мне кажется, что сад, когда он сад для всех, он должен все-таки нести определенную, ну, это некая и эстетическая планка, скажем так. И это вот некая его роль эстетическая очень важна, когда как раз мы говорим вот о саде для массового посетителя, для массового потребителя. Потому что тем важнее вот эта трансляция не только, как сказать, образцов хорошего вкуса, но в том числе, ну, потому что все остальное она без нас спокойно найдет. И вот этот ответ духу времени, и если, вот, скажем так, ну, не образовательная, то просветительская роль.
We need to train and educate people, and gardens can be helpful in this.
Через ту самую визуальную экологию.
Visual sustainability, and by the way, sustainable environment is something which is provided by the flower gems gardens. A garden is just a visual representation of sustainable environment, and we read certain signs by seeing the landscape design in the garden because it's a reference to the wild nature. Aesthetic aspects are important because various plants and combinations of the plants can be used to drive the message home, to improve the attitudes towards the gardens. And we need to translate this image to as many people as possible. This is an unprecedented phenomenon, by the way. Show gardens, landscape designers, landscape designs are now part and parcel of the city. Some of the design solutions, some of the landscaping solutions have, well, used to be present just in a couple of parks. And we thought that annual plants were the only way to decorate the streets of the city. And everything thought that it was the end of the story, and no one actually expected landscape design solutions to be integrated into the city streets. But there is currently a demand for the new aesthetics, and we can shape the tastes of the upcoming generations. Roses, well, a rose is a beautiful flower, but roses are not the only flowers that could be used in the city streets. Save for two major parks in Moscow, in the past we did not see such interesting and beautiful gardens and green zones. And thanks to the flower gem, in the past 2 to 3 years, we have started seeing more and more of such gardens in the city streets. And now people live within a different kind of aesthetics. And I believe that it's of utmost importance to focus on that. Only through these efforts will we be able to shape the demand for other types of gardens and for the sustainable environment. Visual sustainability is a must. Therefore, we have to create this and shape this image. There is such a thing in Russia as like a cottage house, just a piece of land where people would just grow anything they wanted to do. But they had nothing to do with beauty, while these designed gardens that are contemporary are becoming more widespread. And it's really important, like I said, I'm repeating myself, but nevertheless, we need to shape this new taste and translate the aesthetics to the upcoming generations. Maybe in the future that will allow us to change the perception of the contemporary parks and gardens. Currently, most of the parks are heavily criticized. There are a couple of examples of landscape designed parks which are heavily criticized. But we need to promote and educate the public. It's an important effort on our part. Environmental protection should be visualized.
Thank you.
Well, as the Georgians say, I'd like to respond to that. Let's use the urban development definitions and terms. Any landscape architectural object is about the service industry. And from my viewpoint, the Flower Fest satisfies these requirements. Dostoevsky once said that it's the beauty that will save the world, and by that he probably meant educational aspects as well. So Irina is right in saying that we should not be afraid of promoting our profession. We should promote this functional beauty, but keep in mind that our efforts should also focus on the social aspects. That goes without saying, but as far as Dostoevsky is concerned, I believe that the main point that he wanted to drive home is that it's love that's gonna save the world. However, beauty can come in different forms, and the visual images can also be perceived in different ways. But the organizational committee has already embarked on discussing what the visual images should be. Just bright colors are no longer enough. Should the message be clear-cut? Well, that's what beauty is all about. Indeed, if you want to establish some functional space, you still might want to translate it and drive the message home in different ways. You know, because you might want to refer to different things. We have a wide range of different alternatives, which was not the case in the past.
Sorry.
Well, to expand on what Ludmila just mentioned, as far as the urban environment and sustainability are concerned, I just want to mention that Flower Jam has been turned into an event that promotes wildlife gardens in the urban terrain, which just goes to show that not only are we expanding the ecosystem services and offer the wild nature to the city dwellers, we also try to improve their well-being. Images are important, I'm not arguing about that, but we are bringing people closer to the nature, or vice versa, if you will, because in downtown Moscow, not everyone can afford to go outside of the city, because not everyone has a lake house or a cottage house. And the Flower Jam Fest actually brings nature into the city. And the second thing I want to mention is the need to develop residential areas in Moscow. The Flower Jam organizers try to expand the geographical footprint all the time, and that's the right way to go. Not only are we talking about landscape design and aesthetics, we are talking about the need to educate the public, and we need to educate different strata of the society. For instance, my kids have been attending master classes organized by the Flower Jam outside of Moscow for 2 years in a row. All we have to do is just go outside and attend a master class. They are taught how to plant flowers, and this is really important, because kids who live in the city don't even know how to plant flowers, while the Flower Jam brings the nature to them and tells them how to plant a flower. You don't have to move to the suburbs, you don't need to have a lake house. You can do this in the city, and we're talking about a huge stratum of the society, and these educational efforts will pay off. And I do believe that the Flower Jam should do its utmost to increase the educational efforts. Bachelors, masters, and other students get more knowledge while taking part in the flower jam, but the same holds true for kids who live in major cities. They also need some urban green life in their personal lives, and thanks to flower jam, it is becoming possible.
Irina, perhaps you'd like to make the final comment.
Я попросила буквально 1 минуту. Коллеги, я
It'll take me just a minute. I've been paying close attention to the ladies who demonstrated their project. They were quite nervous. I was also anxious. And actually, I tried to help them in any way possible. So I took the following decision. Patricia, why don't you please come out to the stage? I'm really short of time. We are organizing 8 different workshops. I mean, our tree nursery is organizing 8 different workshops on how to establish greening zones. So, Patricia, you have a chance to attend all the 8 workshops totally free of charge. I really want to support you in any way possible. So, please attend our workshops, and I wish you every success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we're out of time now. So, to sum up, I thought it was quite interesting that the way this conversation went was that we actually got around to talking about the design and the aesthetics towards the end. A lot of the focus really, and a lot of the talk today, in fact, has been about people and the interaction with the gardens and the way that that works with Flower Jam. And also about well-being and mental health, but also about the environment. So it's interesting for me to see how these things have become perhaps the most important aspects of what everyone's talking about. Thank you all, everyone, for your contribution, and thank you for putting up with us.